to order the October 3rd Trades Licensing Board meeting. This meeting is recorded in the interest of public transparency. Take roll call. Mr. Armstrong.
Present.
Mr. Reeves.
Present.
Mr. Panitsky.
Here.
Mr. Newber.
Here.
Mr. Dietrich.
Here.
Mr. Ziwi. Mr. Sessler.
Here.
Mr. Bretz. Mr. Schaaf.
Here.
Mr. Hollern. Mr. Collins.
Here.
Mr. Grego.
Here.
Roll has been taken. All the previous meetings' minutes have been published. I'll take a motion to approve the last meeting's minutes from August. Motion by Mr. Collins, second by Mr. Sessler. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it, so moved. Now we move into the public comment section of the meeting. Is there anyone to be heard today? Anyone to be heard? Anyone to be heard? Being that there's none, we'll move on from the public comment section. I don't believe there's a secretary report this month. I don't see any correspondence. Old business letters were mailed out on August 2nd, 2023 to the following applicants, informing them of their applications being approved: Derek Gerlach, Chris Lorzano, and Kevin Fitzpatrick. New business, review and approve of electrical applications. The first applicant is Samuel Savage for a journeyman's license. Yes.
I'm sorry, can we start with Mr. Yaros, please?
Oh,
If possible.
yes, we can do that.
Thank you.
We'll move up Mr. Yaros in the agenda, and we'll push the new applicant stack. Okay, let me pull that page out. At last juncture on this issue, the code office was reviewing all the information that Mr. Yaros disseminated to them, the large amount of information. I believe that they have finished their review. And Andy, do you have anything to say about the conclusion?
We did complete that review, met with Mr. Yaros. There was some items, 14 to be exact, that needed to be addressed on his application, and he did address those items. Mr. Respecki sent, and he was going to try and be here for the meeting to verify for Ron, but couldn't make it. But he did send in a letter stating that Ron did meet the verification, and he did sign off on the verifier for the 14 items that needed checked off.
Okay. Is it the opinion of the code office that he meets the criteria and obligation of the ordinance?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question. Could you put up the verification sheet? My question is, these all need to be notarized, correct? That's a sealed document?
There's a jurat on the, yes, it
Is
is.
that not correct?
That, yes.
Has this been through that process?
That I don't know.
Well, his original application was, if it needs to be notarized, we have a notary here that can notarize it.
And I'm just asking a legal question. If DR fills this out, gets it notarized, and then RR amends it, does that indeed have to be notarized?
That's a legal question that I can't answer.
Mr. Chairman?
We do have an attorney in the house.
He's not the city solicitor, but you may.
I'm not Mr. Betzer on your staff. Good afternoon. My name is Bill Spiros. I represent Mr. Yaros. Thank you for the opportunity to say a couple of words. I actually advised Mr. Yaros that there was not a need to notarize this amended version of his verification form. Reason being, the only amendment are initials by Mr. Respecki. And my understanding is Mr. Respecki also submitted with this, contemporaneously with this verification form, a letter saying that he was verifying those 14 items. So I didn't see a need to have his initials verified by a third party or a notary when he was providing from his email, signed by him, a letter basically confirming that he was the one verifying those 14 items.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I don't know as though that answers my question, that in the city's eyes, does that need to be notarized?
That's probably a question for Attorney Betza, but I think from a legal perspective, notarization isn't necessary. But if the city requires it, that's not something I can answer because I represent Mr.
I
Yaros.
understand.
Yep, thank you.
The one, the one time the solicitor doesn't come to the meeting.
And again, this really has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with the procedure and what's dotting the i's, crossing the t's.
If you look at the notary page,
The first page? Or-
yeah, go back up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's his, that the information that Ron or anyone is providing, the undersigned agrees to be governed. So it's his information that's notarized.
Just making a point on a go-forward basis that it needs to be or it does not need to be. And an amended does not need to be. And that's on a go-forward basis what we're gonna have to deal
Now,
with.
the jurat page may be attached to the,
Take a look at that too.
Does the letter have to be notarized too from Ron? But he verified it.
No,
It doesn't- I
it
don't
wouldn't
think
be
so.
required to be notarized.
He signed it, he initialed it, he verified it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still Ron's.
for this page,
For
that's notarized.
any applicant, it's still it's their signature and that's what's being
Well,
notarized.
that's where he signs the page. That's where the applicant signs
There's
the
no
page.
notary on the verification page. It's only these two spots.
Any other question?
Thank you.
I hate to eat and run, but I'll see you guys next month.
Thanks, Andy. Okay, so it's the recommendation of the code office to approve that application. Is there a motion to approve that application? Todd Dietrich made the motion.
I'll second.
Ricky Reeves seconded the motion. Any questions on the motion? Yes.
There's one more thing on the table. Mr. Yaros took his master exam back in 2012.
Ah.
It'll be the board's discretion if we are going to accept that or if he's gonna have to retake the exam.
Were we?
It's my suggestion, Mr. Yaros took that exam in 2012, is that what you said?
Yes.
The code book's changed twice since then, so we'll approve the application contingent that Mr. Yaros retakes the exam. I'm amending my motion to that. Does everyone
I'll
agree?
second that, yeah.
Second by, or that wasn't my
Or,
motion.
sorry.
I'm sorry, it wasn't my motion.
Your motion,
I'm offering an amendment.
Okay.
I'm not able, I'm amending Todd's motion, excuse me. So, I'm asking for amendment. Is there a motion to approve my amendment?
I'll approve that.
Mr. Armstrong? Is there a second? Second by Mr. Grego. Okay,
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
yes.
Does the board have knowledge of whether or not the test itself has changed? I understand the code book has been.
Yeah.
The exam, to my knowledge, I took the exam a while ago, but I know many people that are taking that exam. It has changed slightly, but it hasn't dramatically changed. So it just put, in the fuel gas section, there's some new things, but it hasn't changed like a huge amount, but it has changed.
Yeah, and I took the test, so, the one thing is, when you do take the test, it's open book, and you're only allowed to bring that year of that book into the test.
Correct.
And if it was a 2012 code versus a 14 or 16, they would reject you and say you can't use your books on this test. That's the only thing. Has the code changed much? Probably not, but it's their procedures too, the test taking center, which is Pearson deal.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions on this motion? Any other questions? Seeing that there's none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Okay, we're past that. Now we'll move on to new business, which is review and approve electrical applications. I believe Mr. Savage is the first application. Mr. Savage is applying to take the journeyman's exam. All the documentation is provided to you on screen here.
Question on this, I know that we don't reciprocate with others, but he would have not had his required journeyman time in Erie, obviously, and then he's going for the masters. So,
We won't reciprocate a master's, correct?
right,
And we don't reciprocate a journeyman. He's asking to take the journeyman exam,
right. But isn't-
correct? Or not correct?
Well, he's a union member.
Oh, so
So
he
He's just going
Under-
same status for same status because he is part of the union.
so he has in other words, he has a certificate from the, what is it, Jim, it's not the NEC.
NJTC, I don't see it submitted though.
The certificate.
I don't have that document in front of me, so. Oop. What are those?
No, I was looking to see if he gave you a copy of the journeyman part, but he just has the.
What would make him eligible if he doesn't have the verifiers?
well, that's what I'm, that's what,
If
I
he-
think that's
if
what
he-
he's trying to ask.
If he completed a registered apprenticeship program
okay.
with his hours, he would be able to get the journeyman license.
Take the test, or would take the test, or get a license, because
I
That's
thought
what I'm
in the
saying.
past that we evaluated the test that he passed
Well,
to get that license.
yeah.
And if it was the test that we give, then that license would be issued. But if it were a different test and they had the background, then they could take the test.
right.
I'm going back 3 months ago, 4 months ago, so forgive me, but we had a similar situation. Guy had licenses in 40 states or something.
Yeah.
And it came down to the test he took for his plumbing license or electrical license. Was it the same test that we require for the journeyman to take?
But
No?
back to what you were saying, PJ, does this give him eligibility to take the test, or gets him a license?
That's my question.
Yeah.
It would be contingent on kind of what he said.
Okay.
He needs to provide the information of the exam he took. And then that determines whether or not he gets approved or if he has to take the exam.
So Jim, what is this other thing you're looking for, this?
Well, graduation diploma from a 5-year apprenticeship program.
He just got initiated their local September 5th of 2023.
Says he's a member.
Was initiated on
So
9/5/23.
So he just be, so he may or may not have went through an IBEW.
Well, he's a journeyman, he got a journeyman card, right?
Well, you would have had to been an apprentice journeyman before he got his master's anyways, but
Right.
I'm just saying, you know, is it, like I said, is this getting him a test, or is this giving him the actual license?
But I don't think he would qualify right now for an actual license. I
That's-
mean, the application he filled out was for a master's.
No.
He took a
He
master.
was going for a master, but because he is, a union member, he was going for the same status, so journeyman for journeyman.
Oh.
Well, I mean, it doesn't seem like he went through one of the requirements as far as the 5-year apprenticeship program.
Or he needs to verify that.
Or you'd have to verify that.
Well, I think he needs to provide that information.
Yeah.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we ask him for the relevant information and then just table his application until the next month's meeting? Does that seem reasonable? That wasn't a motion, but
So if he does provide the proper training, would that make him eligible to take the test? If he didn't take the same test, he probably didn't take the same test, maybe.
Well,
That-
that's what, this reciprocate, not, in non-reciprocating, I
Well,
should say.
he-
You have different jurisdictions and different tests.
he would need to provide that information before we would know whether or not,
Yeah.
is my point.
Okay.
So he needs to give us the information of the exam.
So what
And
did-
his training,
What did you call
correct?
that, Jim? What does he need to provide?
If he,
The initials?
I don't see the issue if he provides the information. I don't see any issue why he couldn't be approved to either have the, depending on the exam.
If he's got the right credentials, yeah,
Right.
I can see him being approved. If he doesn't, if the tests don't line up or he doesn't have the time, then I don't see him being able to, depending upon which one of those he does or does not have. So at this point, we're having a long conversation about insufficient information.
Right. Well, that being said, I guess we need more information, so we'll request, yes.
Our last meeting, we gave a journeyman license to, I think it was a plumber. The council member came and spoke on his behalf. I think he was a plumber. And because he was part of the local union, we gave him his journeyman license. He didn't have to take the exam because he wanted a master and we wouldn't approve the master license.
I don't, I wasn't here at the last
You
meeting, so.
weren't here.
I wasn't here.
I wasn't
It was an electrical, it was Chris Lorenzo.
I didn't see any of the document about it. Chris Lozano.
Chris Lozano.
Yeah, he's on the list that,
He was trying to, get an electrical license. He wanted a master. We didn't approve him for a master, but because he was part of the local union from where he was from, we gave him a journeyman license. It was approved for him to get a journeyman license.
To take the test?
No, to get the
You just
license.
issued a license?
Because he had already went through, because he went through the union.
He showed his apprenticeship credentials, is that what happened? Down there at the bottom,
I have here from 14 to 21 journeyman,
There it is, right there.
and then
5-year, yeah,
down here 5-year journeyman certificate.
and NJATC,
Right.
that would be the 5-year apprenticeship.
so that's what we're looking for
Correct.
him.
Correct.
That's what we need. I just want to be specific on what we needed,
Yeah.
and that's what we need.
If he has
Does that grant him the license or to take the test then?
That would grant him
In this
journeyman.
case, he proved his apprenticeship, so he got the license, apparently, yeah.
Okay.
That would be for a
A
journeyman.
journeyman only.
Right, and that's what he's requesting. That's what the application says.
Well, why don't-
He puts it as a master journeyman license, which is weird.
Why
Why
don't-
say journeyman master? It's either a master's license or a journeyman's license. It's not a master journeyman, but
Why don't we do this?
and I don't know what interior wire means, a wireman, as opposed to an electrician.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we approve his application contingent with him providing the information that he had completed the 5-year apprenticeship?
So moved.
I made the motion and it was seconded by Mr. Grego. Is there any questions on the motion? Any questions? Seeing that there's none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. Okay. Next is Michael Socash, master's license. I think Mr. Socash has worked for Nuco for 20
Yeah,
years.
I was gonna say, I worked with him,
20 years?
I worked with him 25, 30 years ago, I worked with him. He was one of the lead guys. Figured he already had that.
He's had his journeyman since 2001.
Everything looks in order on his application.
How old is this guy? He's 45 years?
Oh, he's older than me. I worked with him. I mean, he's.
And how old are you?
I just turned 59.
He's not older than that.
He's got to be.
74 is his date.
All right, I was gonna say upper 60s or 70.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's 49.
And then his dad was in the trade, his dad was a journeyman wireman in the IBEW, and then this is the kid.
Oh, this is the son
Yeah.
of Mike. Okay, that makes more sense.
It's not a junior, he has a different middle.
Well, it didn't say junior, so I was like, oh, okay, Mike's okay.
He may
Yeah,
not.
if you change the middle initial, you're not a junior. So
Yeah, right.
Maybe he's Michael A and Dad's Michael J. All right, well, that makes more sense then.
But he did go through the Local 56 apprenticeship.
Everything's in order on this application. I'll make the motion to approve the application. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ricky Reeves. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Okay. I think that's it for applications. And then we moved up Mr. Yarrow, so there's no more business this month for the licensing board, and unless anybody has something for the good of the order. No?
I did kind of want to talk about the reciprocity thing too, just for a minute. So like, the gentleman that we asked to see the other credentials, when is the code enforcement allowed to issue a license versus requiring them to take the test?
That's up to us.
Okay. Okay. I don't know if there was anything black and white in the book that says we will give you a license if you, okay.
The way it's written, the way the ordinance is written, it's at the discretion of the board of the license.
To issue the license or allow them to take the test.
Correct.
Okay.
It's at the discretion of the board.
But like with the electricians, that 5-year apprenticeship program, that's a pretty what standardized type thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's like if you go from Detroit to Cleveland to Erie to Pittsburgh, it's the
Because
same.
I'm just saying this because I see a lot
It's the
more in
same.
Allegheny County
Right.
with the apprentice programs and Detroit and Chicago.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
I mean,
It's, to
that's
answer,
the way the city of Erie, or Pennsylvania used to be with the building code. Philadelphia had their own, Pittsburgh had their own,
Right.
Yeah.
Erie had their own,
Well,
you
to-
know, and nothing jived at all.
to answer your question more specifically, it is the same as long as it's an accredited program.
okay.
Well, the IBEW is a 5-year program, 900 classroom hours.
Right, okay.
8,000 on-the-job training hours. There are other apprenticeships, but they're only 4 years.
Okay.
And the only other thing I want to clarify is, we've had people coming in who are licensed tradesmen who have taken tests, but their electric, the test they took wasn't for an electrician. It was a wiring something, or it wasn't a plumber, it was a gas piping something. So that's why I raised the issue. We gotta make sure that the test that, we got a guy coming in who says he's a master journeyman, in-house whatever that guy said he was. Okay, maybe he has a test, but that isn't the same as the electric test in this town for a master electrician or a journeyman electrician. Because there's a bunch of other things out there. We just want to make sure their documentation is apples to apples with what we're approving them at.
Right.
Fair enough.
Mr. Santana, what is the exam that's given to applicants? I mean, to get the license for the city, whatever test they have to take. What, is there an exam number?
That's a question.
Oh, okay,
You would ask me that, right?
yeah.
There is one.
I don't know it off my head, but there is a number.
You don't have to answer that now, but like maybe next month, just tell us what it is so we know what it is. Is everybody satisfied with that?
Yeah.
Well, there's
Well,
no,
Is plumbing the same way?
yeah, the plumbing is the same way. I think the exam is, don't quote me on this, but I think the exam is W-25 plumbing. But the journeyman exam obviously is different than the master's exam. The master's
Correct.
exam is
Sure.
plumbing with fuel gas. So, but the journeyman exam, I think, is W-25, if I'm not mistaken.
But that would be the same nationwide,
International Plumbing Code,
right?
yeah. I mean, of course, like Allegheny County is Article 15, that's a different code altogether. Well, very different, but it's a
So
different,
in that case, we don't reciprocate with Allegheny. If someone came up with a journeyman card, they'd be required.
no.
Yeah.
We wouldn't reciprocate.
Yeah.
Would that master's license, like this Mr. Savage that applied, his background is an inside wireman, would that master's license from the city of Erie, or if he were to apply for a master's license in the city of Erie, which he's not, but if he would that give him the ability to be an outside electrician as well? Could he, just because, if his background is inside wireman, could he come bid on work because he has a master's license with the city for
I don't know that,
outside power?
I don't know that there's a lineman license. I don't think, the city certainly doesn't have one. So,
But would the outside work be covered under the master's license for him to apply for permits for jobs and that sort of thing?
no,
That's all under utility, if I'm understanding it correctly.
yeah.
There's no outside work that exists, it's not under the realm of utility. Once the utilities stop, and there's places like Europe that have substations that they own, that's still considered inside work. Even though it's taking place outside, it's considered inside work because it's, the demarcation point is from utility to privately owned. Inside work is privately owned, utility is outside work.
Okay, thank you.
Well, if there isn't any other business and no one has any other things to discuss, can take a motion for adjournment. Motion by Bill Panitsky, seconded by Doug Armstrong. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Meeting is closed until next month.